Hey everyone, welcome to the Bark Night Podcast, your destination for film and TV news, interviews, and discussions. It's great to be back for a new season. We're kicking off season 4 with a special guest. We have Brandon Christensen, writer and director of Night of the Reaper, the latest horror film from Shudder. So please take some time to subscribe wherever you're watching and listening. And Brandon, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure, yeah. Brandon Christensen. I'm a filmmaker, I guess, now. I've been in the business for about 20 years now, but doing films for about 10. My first was in 2016 that I shot a stillborn. And yeah, just sort of inching more and more into that world as I kind of came up doing the corporate work and commercial work and short films. And for the last 10, I've just been directing films pretty much and doing VFX for other films. So it's been cool. I've just met a lot of great people, and yeah, I've just had a lot of fun. It's just like it's a pretty fun industry to be a part of, and I just like doing whatever I can and helping where I can. So yeah, this new one, Night of the Reaper, just came out this week, and yeah, it's been really cool so far. A lot of people are watching it. A lot of people have seen it now, and it seems like the vibes are pretty good right now.
Yeah. Vibes are great over here. I loved it.
Cool.
So to give everybody some background, first of all, you should go watch it. But the synopsis of the movie is Night of the Reaper is about a college student who visits home and is roped into babysitting, a high-risk job here, and a local sheriff who is led on a trail of clues, finding piece after piece of evidence slowly revealing the killer of another babysitter until the shocking finale. Piece the clues and reveal the babysitter killer before the next victim is claimed in Night of the Reaper. So the film stars Jessica Clement, Ryan Robbins, and Keegan Connor Tracy, who I immediately recognized from Final Destination 2. And it's a lot of fun. It's got a really unique style to it. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, let's jump into some questions for you. Thank you again for joining. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. This is cool.
Cool. All right, so first off, you wrote this alongside your brother, it looks like, if IMDb is to be believed. Tell me about that process and both of your relationship with filmmaking and with horror.
Yeah, no, I've been working on movies and just sort of around the industry for a lot longer than him. But he's always been writing since, he was a kid. He was always writing short stories, and then when he got older, he started writing full-length novels and all this stuff. And so when, I'd done a few films and we just got to talking about some other projects back in like 2021 or something, 2020. And, it seemed like a natural fit because we've just got a good relationship and we've got a good, ability to throw out really stupid ideas at each other and not, you can make fun of them, but it still moves forward, like you can
Right.
volley back, make fun of it, whatever. We just have a very collaborative sense of humor. So, it was back in like 2020. I was actually shooting Superhost and just right before that, and we were talking about a babysitter movie. And at that point, we'd never written together or anything. He'd never really tried screenplay writing. So I was, we had discussed about doing how we would do a babysitter movie, like what kind of angle would we take because, it's been done before. It's not a new thing. It's got, a lot of really big films like When a Stranger Calls and like House of the Devil and all these films like that. So, the big conversation we had was just like, what's going to be our spin? And so we talked about kind of this babysitter movie with a twist. And when I went off to shoot Superhost, he just sort of attempted writing the cold open of the film. And so he wrote pretty much that 10 minutes that opens the film, like, and it hasn't really changed at all other than some like tightening and stuff like that. But he sent it to me when I was shooting and I just read it and I was just like, holy shit, this is rad. And yeah, we just started developing it from that point and just took it to the end. And we almost made it in 2023, but it got pushed. And then, I did another project and, just kind of trying to figure out how to make it work. And finally last year, it just sort of like randomly popped up again and we got the opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. It must be a really cool experience sort of making a movie with your brother.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's like he works full time and stuff like that, so he's not able to come out to set much. But I think it's cool for him to just sort of be around it, and I don't know, maybe if as time goes by, he might be able to transition more into this side of things. But when you're making indies, it's not like the biggest money makers and thing in the world. So for him, it's just like he's got kids, I've got kids. We just got to sort of focus
Yeah.
where we can provide.
Yeah. Oh, I know all too well. This isn't my moneymaker in the household.
Right.
But that's the
But it's
dream,
fun.
right?
Yeah, no, it's fun. If you can enjoy doing the thing that you want, that you would love to do for a living, then that's great. I mean, like, if you doesn't matter, it's all a growth thing. Like, you
Exactly.
just inch forward and piece by piece and just sort of grab everything you can. But eventually you'll be like, oh shit, remember when I was like really struggling? Now I'm doing much better, and you're kind of just like building. So, yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. Awesome. You mentioned some horror movies there. I did want to ask what some of your favorite horror movies are.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. That's the thing about horror is it's like what's your favorite movie in general? There's so many different genres, there's so many reasons for films to be, important and stuff like that. So I kind of like to divide it into films that are important rather than just like my favorite because that can change often if I see something really good. Like I really loved Weapons. But I don't know if it's my favorite because it was just a really good film. But I mean, my first favorite horror movie is probably The Blair Witch Project, the original one, just because everything that kind of happened with it. I mean, I'm sure you were around at that time and you saw
I
kind of
was.
it was like the first viral marketing thing on the internet, and I was in the eighth grade, and it was just like the perfect time for me and my internet awareness. So I spent a lot of time like. I saw a thing on the news and they were talking about it as if it was real. And so I'm like, oh, what is this thing? So I, look on the internet and you're seeing all this stuff and you're just like, Jesus, how can they show this stuff?
Yeah.
And I was in British Columbia at the time at my cousin's house, and he's like, "Hey, I got tickets to a midnight screening of it. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So we went to this midnight screening thing, and we had to walk through this undeveloped land in Langley, BC, to get to the theater. And it was like, it was probably 10 p.m. or something like that. So it was dark going there. The movie starts at midnight, terrifying, craziest thing ever. And we get out of the theater, and it's like 2:30 and I'm just like, there's 0% chance I'm walking home. Like that was the plan, but it was never going to happen. So we ended up calling his parents, and it was, after two. I don't think they were thrilled. Although, in hindsight, we were both pretty young to be out that late without, before cell phones and everything. But either way, they came and picked us up, drove us home, and I just basically just spent the night crying in bed because I was so scared. And I would, every time I closed my eyes, I would see, I think it's Josh standing in the corner right before the camera falls at the very end of the movie, and it's such a crazy, haunting image that it just, it just totally got me. And so that's just like it was such an experience from beginning to end until I finally found out it wasn't real. But it was just like, it's hard to duplicate that a
Yeah.
feeling, and you can try, and that's kind of like a whole thing I think with horror fans is that they're kind of chasing the dragon a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, I got that scare. I want to try and find it again." And then you kind of get desensitized, and you're just pushing yourself further and further, and then yeah, you just sort of figure out what you like. But that was just such a unique time and
Yeah.
place for the internet being in its like infancy like that, that it just was yeah, it was just super memorable, and just so it just holds the movie up so high for me.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of forget that that was the thing with that. Like, people did
Hmm.
believe this was a real movie,
For
you
sure.
know? Like, so many people, I think, and it really is a thing of its time where we weren't watching things like this all the time. Now
Right.
they're very conscious of that. They're very conscious of, like, anytime you see a video online, it's like, is this even real? Like, and it
Hmm.
could be anything, just somebody tripping and falling. You're like, is that a
Sure.
real trip or fall? You
Yeah.
know, like, but back then it was just a completely different culture. I remember
Hmm.
seeing it I saw it at the drive-in as a kid. That
That's
was a
cool.
cool experience. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
awesome.
cool. So the film plays as sort of like a retro slasher slash mystery, and so I wanted to see what some of your inspirations were into sort of how the movie is framed that way into that style.
Yeah, it was I mean it was when we said it in the 80s, we were very much just like, the 80s are this iconic period in horror especially. So there was a lot of like greatest hit things that we wanted to hit with it, like Halloween and just the suburbia feeling, and When a Stranger Calls, which was kind of like the impetus for the film to exist at all. Just that feeling of just being in a stranger's house alone and you're taking care of a kid and you're the only protector in this house that is not yours. It's totally unfamiliar. You're usually not old enough to even be doing it. It's like 16-year-olds. And it's just sort of like capturing this time and place where you don't have the internet, you don't have anything to kind of, no one's bored anymore. But back in the day, you would go babysit, the kid goes to bed, and you're just kind of bored. You can maybe watch TV, but there wasn't a ton to do. So it's just like such an interesting time. But when we wrote it and we did that opening bit, I was really heavily inspired by Scream and with the Drew Barrymore opening.
Yeah.
Because it's like the cold open in horror is nothing new. Like When a Stranger Calls it's like the ultimate one. It's like 20 minutes long, and it's just like no one really thinks about the rest of that movie. After that first 20 minutes, but it's like a detective story, and he's like going and trying to find the killer, blah blah blah, and it's fine, but it's that first 20 minutes is everything. When people think of that movie, they just think of that. And like Scream, it's an incredible film, but that opening is still just like regarded as one of the greats. Then you have movies like Ghost Ship, and you have movies like The Ring, and they just encapsulate the film's idea in this short film kind of thing. And I think that I was really really into just making that and like doing something that even if the rest of the movie sucked, this first 10 minutes could be something that people return to. And so, yeah, we were just like, there's all of these, House of the Devil, obviously, like when Deena is finally babysitting in the house, that was the mood I wanted to feel. Just girl in a big creepy house and just unsure of what's going to happen and really leaning, her hair and her wardrobe is like basically 1-to-1 with what Jocelyn Donahue wore in that movie. We wanted to make a film for horror fans, like people that dig this stuff that will notice those things, and it'll just make them like feel cozy and comfortable. And then as the movie goes on and it changes, they get kind of thrown into a new situation where they're no longer able to be like rest on those things, to be like, oh, it's a comfy, cozy Halloween autumn movie, and then it turns into something else, and you're just like, oh wait, I got to pay attention, whatever. I mean, that was the goal of the film, was just like give them two acts of really cozy and then one act of really crazy, and that was kind of what we set out to do, and I think we did a pretty cool job of it.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you brought up House of the Devil, because I was going to ask about that, because that's shot in sort of this unique like 70s style. Like it
Totally.
really reminds me of some of those 70s movies like Amityville Horror and a lot of those movies of that era. And it really reminds me a lot of that. But it also has like that VHS style to it that
Right.
has been sort of like people have been leaning into that a lot lately. Like the VHS movies, those have been doing that for a while here. Sinister with the movies that are within the movie, and then you've got like Freaky Tales that is basically told as if it's as if you just found this movie in a stack of
Right.
VHS tales of these anthology things. So I guess like do you plan on continuing to lean into this? Is it something
What do you
you
mean?
want to do with other movies, or
Like lean into kind of the vibes of the 80s?
yeah, the retro analog?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we've been writing another project that opens in kind of the 80s. And, what Ty West did with House of the Devil is he actually shot it on film and he used like zoom lenses and all this stuff, like old stuff, so that, the actors, they all look time period appropriate. And so when you watch it, it just feels like it was from that time. Night of the Reaper is shot with, digital HD, or, we shot it in like 6K. So it looks a lot newer and stuff like that. It doesn't have that retro vibe to it, but the lighting and the aesthetic of just like the furniture, all the sets and everything, they're more leaning into that. But I don't know. I mean, it was a total blast to shoot 80s. I've never done it before, and so going into this, that was such a huge fear of mine. Was just I've seen a lot of stuff done on this kind of budget in the 80s, and it's never been fully authentic. Like, you can either lean into the neons or you can lean into the drab and the brown and the wood panels and stuff like that, which is to me anyways, is what the actual 80s were. So,
Right.
um,
That's what it was
yeah,
like
it
to
was
grow up in it.
totally, yeah. I feel like that neon thing was more of like an early 90s pop culture thing that kind of happened, but it's just eventually blended into the 80s, and a lot of people did that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of game for whatever. It's kind of an interesting time right now where you can just play with the genre, like movies. I've done a found footage movie that's coming out next year. I've got an 80s slasher here. I've done like Possession Tale. I've done mom grief trauma movies, stuff like that. It's just kind of fun to dabble. So I don't know what's going to be next, but I'd love to revisit the 80s again for sure.
Yeah. I really liked the beginning credits too.
Hmm.
The way like the tracking features into it with
Right.
the music and the sort of extended shots there. That was all really cool too.
Well, that was funny because like House of the Devil kind of has something similar. It has her walking, and she's just like, it's just very kind of classy. And so the first pass of that sequence, the edit was the exact same, but the titles were really lame, and I was using the same font as When a Stranger Calls, and it was very understated. And when I sent the cut to Shudder, they were Sam Zimmerman was just like, "You need to vibe up the credits." And then Jessica Clement, the star, she's like, "The credits aren't vibey enough." And I was just like, "God damn it! So what can I do?" And when the musicians that did the score, Michelle, Terry, and David, they sent me this opening, music matched to the edit, and it was just like this big '80s Halloween anthem, and I was just like, oh, interesting. Maybe I just go really bold with the font, and I've got this TV right behind me that is like an old 1990 CRT thing, and I was like, if I can, I'll edit it, I'll export it, and then I'll play it back on that TV and refilm it. So I set up my camera, did all this stuff, and I just filmed the credits happening, and then I could just jump in between like the clean footage and then the TV footage, and it gave it this really cool kind of analog thing.
Yeah.
But no, it worked really cool. I was really happy with it, and both Jess and Sam were like, "Yes, that's it. That's amazing." And I was just like, "God damn it, you guys were right."
Well, and it's really interesting how the beginning credits of a movie can sort of
Totally.
influence the entire vibe of the movie. I mean, I think of
Mm-hmm.
like Night of the Demons. I adore the beginning credits of that. I think that most of the Halloween movies capture that pretty well.
Yeah, they do.
People complain about Halloween 4 and 5, but like the beginning credits of those
Sure.
establish that fall feel really well. And I mean, even like Halloween H2O, when it's
Mm-hmm.
like panning over all of the things on the wall, like the paper clippings, and Donald Pleasance is just
Mm-hmm.
talking, like they'll like it is a really important aspect to a movie.
Yeah, I mean, just packaging the movie in its entirety, the more that you can lean into what the movie is. Like, the very first thing in the film is the play button, the play symbol at the top of the screen, like you're turning on a VHS tape. And then there's like the TV kind of like whoosh, like the CRT effect, and then the titles run, and then the movie starts, and then it returns to that feeling. And then at the very end of the film, if you wait till the credits, I believe I put in like the stop thing, and then the movie turns off. And so it's just kind of like, yeah, like the credits, they are cool and they're aesthetic, but they also do tie into what the film is about, which is all these VHS tapes.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, it's definitely something that, if you can kind of create this aesthetic for the entire film, it just gives the film a unique identity.
yeah. Are you a physical media enthusiast?
I'm like, I'm weird. So like when DVDs were a thing, I was 17, 18, and when I could like buy my own, and I would have my own job, and I would basically judge my paycheck on how many DVDs I could buy. Like I would just constantly buy DVDs, and then fast forward a few years and Blu-ray comes out, and I'm like, okay, fine. So I got to start rebuying all these movies, and I'm doing that, and I built a pretty big collection of those. Not nearly as big as my DVD one. But then all of a sudden 4K is being announced, and I started to transition out into like Apple TV, and I still have all my like a ton of DVDs and Blu-rays, but the ability to just turn it on really fast on like Apple TV and just be like, boop, there's my movie, special features, whatever. It did make it a little painful to go to physical, and then a couple years ago, I got my first LaserDisc player, and I started buying LaserDiscs, and so I've probably got 60, 70 of those, and again, it's just like I like having them. I like the feeling of them. I've got like some
Yeah,
James Cameron stuff, The Abyss, True Lies, stuff like that. But it's still so much easier to just like stream it. So it's kind of like I don't know. I'll still buy 4K stuff now. Like I just bought American Werewolf in London because it was at Walmart for $20. I was like, sweet. And like I got like the It Follows, this like German box set or something, and then Donnie Darko, the Arrow release, which is like a big thick box set, which is really dope.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just like it's tough because I've got multiple versions of multiple movies, and at some point, I'm never even watching any of them anymore. It's just so much easier to stream. So I love the aesthetic of physical, and I like when I get my own because I have a bunch of those. But yeah, I think I'm just sort of favoring, because with the 4K thing, I think that's like the final. I don't want them to do an 8K
Yeah.
HD release, So I feel like if you get like the special edition or whatever of a movie now, it's much. I feel like it's like the final edition of it, and I don't need to buy it again. So that's why I was cool with buying some of these ones.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I had a massive VHS collection growing up that like my parents had put together, and then I was always buying so many DVDs at the
Totally.
store. And yeah, the Arrow video releases are those are all awesome. I have a few of those. I have, I think so. I have like four versions of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Nice.
Like,
That's
and
awesome.
that's one too. Like I don't even have a LaserDisc player, but I would
Yeah.
absolutely, if I was at a record store or something, and I
hmm
saw John Carpenter's The Thing on LaserDisc, I'm buying it right there.
Totally. Yeah, they're great, and it's interesting too because it's not digital; it's still analog. So it's just really weird technology. I'd never really played with it until maybe 2 years ago when I bought mine, and yeah, I watched Falling Down with Michael Douglas because it came someone sold it with the player, and I'd never seen the movie before. But you watch it, and then halfway through, it's like, please flip over the thing, and then you go, and
Yeah,
it's this really heavy record, like it's the same size as a vinyl, but it's like heavy. It's much heavier. And so you flip it over, it continues, and it's there's like special features on some of the stuff where it's like an extra chapter at the end of the thing. But no, it's cool. It's just it looks fun, and when AI takes over, I'll still be able to watch some old movies, which is cool.
yeah. I bring that up to my wife all the time when I'm justifying keeping all of these boxes and everything that have
hmm
transitioned to so many different houses at this point. It's like,
Right.
well, if the internet goes out or the world ends, I can
Yeah.
still watch all these movies.
Yeah, and my wife is like she's as conspiratorial enough to buy that. She'll be like, "Okay, no, that makes sense. I'm fine with that now." So, yeah, we've got too many, and unfortunately, a lot of them are just in boxes, in my garage or in my like storage room. So they don't, I do miss the time when DVD was new and like the behind the scenes and all those things. They were just like they were super
Yeah,
novel at the time. It'd be like, "Oh, I can get this movie that I love." And it has extra stuff. That's crazy because you didn't get that on VHS. So there was an excitement there that I feel like has kind of gone down, like it's not
yeah.
as, and you can watch most of the stuff on YouTube now, but it used to just be such like a special experience to turn on a movie that you loved and then seeing all this new content for it from like years ago and you're just like, "Oh shit, this is wild." I miss
Yeah.
that.
I sometimes get surprised too that more streamers don't lean into
I
special
know.
features too,
Totally.
of like, hey, let me turn what it you think you'd be able to do like an audio commentary
For sure.
for streaming or and I think some of these things do happen. It's just not as like wide reaching.
Yeah. I wonder if they just people don't use it enough to make it worth it maybe.
Yeah.
But like when I deliver my movies with Shudder, like I'll do several commentaries, I'll do cast ones, other ones, and I do a bunch of stuff. Like I put together a package for the DVD release, but it never. I would love for them to just put it directly on the service so people can
Yeah.
see it. Because how many people are watching the DVD commentary of these movies? Very few, I imagine. So it's kind of just like lost to time.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it's good to have those too because eventually,
hmm
I like to hope everybody gets like a big box physical edition. Those are a lot of fun, and if you
Yeah.
can throw some postcards or whatever in there, I've got like a Halloween 3 that has like a signed coaster from Tom
Cool.
Atkins in it, and like
That's wild.
anything you can get there is pretty fun.
Have you seen in Germany? In Germany they do these like media books. They're called. I think I've got some back there, but they're basically they'll release the movie. It's Blu-ray and DVD, but in the middle is like a making of booklet that they do, and they create all this artwork for it and stuff. And so I've got one for my movies, Superhost and Puppet Man, and they're insane. The releases are so cool, and so much work is put into them, and they're kind of
Yeah.
limited, but it's really wild to see just because you're like, oh man, like they care so much over there, and they really put some effort into it. And I think here we've mostly switched to digital, and that's kind of like the most pervasive way people watch right now. So it's just maybe it's not worth it, but it's cool because like Arrow Video and Criterion, obviously these special releases. Shout Factory. I don't know if they still do it.
They have a lot of different editions. Like I have, I can see right here. I have like a whole line of John Carpenter ones that are like it's like a little box, like the size of a whatever the smaller record is,
Mm-hmm.
a 33 or whatever. But
45, I think.
yeah, but it comes with like one of those, and it's got one song on the front and one song on the back, and there will be like the 4K edition, and sometimes they'll have like little booklets and things in there. But it's
Right.
definitely not standard. I've got one for the Fog that I bought from Scream Factory that has an action figure of Adrian Barbeau in it. That one's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah, and then yeah, Vinegar Syndrome they do it as well, and they're kind of like limited run things, but yeah, they do great work, and it's if you can get one for your own film, that's like such an honor. So I don't know, I'm curious what they'll do for Reaper because Puppet Man they just did a DVD for it, and it's a bummer because at least Blu-ray is HD and everything, so you can actually see a good quality version of it, but
Yeah.
the DVD of it is kind of like the worst way to watch it. So it's like, I'll just watch it another way.
Yeah,
But
at
yeah,
least with like VHS, the low quality is like the
yeah,
charm of it,
for
you know?
sure. Exactly.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So you mentioned the score.
Hmm.
Tell me about sort of the process of nailing down the score, because I'm always curious about, I mean, the score of a movie is such an integral part of the process,
Hmm.
and I'm always curious about the relationship between the composer and the director as they work out what that is.
Yeah, so since I edited the film, I use a lot of temp stuff and like I'll ask friends and you'll have like Sinister's always in there because it has a great score. But since this was 80s, I had to kind of go to older stuff. So there was stuff like The Gate and like there was a lot of movies in that world that I was using for the temp. And so when you do finally, you don't work with the at least on indies, you're not really working with the people scoring the film until you're like locked in the movie's kind of in a position for them to watch it and figure it out because there's just no money for like paying for their time for a longer period. But yeah, I had a meeting with Michelle Osis and Terry Benn and David Arcus, and it's just this trio in Ontario. And you just talk about kind of the feeling that you want to convey, and it's just like how the opening 10 was a little bit more orchestral in my temp, and then it goes a little bit more synth for the rest of it because it's kind of leaning into this Scream meets When a Stranger Calls kind of vibe, and then the rest of the film was more synth, and so I just you have those conversations about tone, and you do a spotting session. Basically, you just like watch it over Zoom together, and you just stop and just like, okay, in this scene the feeling is this, and then they're like, well, actually I thought it felt like this, and it's like, oh, cool, I like that idea too, and then they just start building. A lot of the time they'll build like a sketchbook is what it's called, and they basically do like a 3 or 4 minute song that just sort of weaves in all of their ideas. It's like a musical palette, so they can just paint from, and they come up with the sounds and all that stuff, and they can build scenes based off of that. And so you kind of listen to that and you go, oh, okay, that's cool. I really like what you're doing there. And then they just start putting the whole thing together. And this one was interesting because like they kind of nailed like 95% of it very first attempt, like that's pretty rare when they usually there's a lot of collaborating and figuring out and just sort of breaking things down, but they nailed so much of it because they're very big into synth that the notes were more like, oh, well, this note shouldn't be there, it should be over here, let's add something here, and like maybe add some percussion to this or whatever. But it was very minimal, which was really cool because it was just they totally got it. And yeah, they did a great job. So it was a ton of fun. Just the easiest score I've ever done for sure, though.
That's great. What are some of your favorite sort of movie scores that come to mind?
Um, I've got a bunch. I mean, It Follows, Disaster Piece. I've
Oh,
got the record of that.
love
It's
that.
incredible. Yeah, it's so good. That's probably my favorite horror movie one. Donnie Darko, the soundtrack and the score are both amazing. Um,
There's
the
songs from the Donnie Darko soundtrack that I cannot listen to without thinking of
Really?
that movie.
That's
Like,
cool.
yeah, it every time it's like, oh man, this is the song from that one scene.
Right.
It's
Yeah, no,
great.
it is cool. And I don't know if you ever saw the director's cut, but it
I
like
did.
it changes where some of the songs are and some of the songs are different. And that's really weird because, I watched that movie all the time when I was like in my late teens, and it was it's still to this day one of my favorites. But watching, the director's cut, it came out with all this like fanfare, and you watch it, and it's like a totally different movie, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, this is, I don't like it as much. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And I mean, that was made back when people weren't doing retro 80s stuff yet. It was like they shot it, I think, 2000. So they were able to use very little money to get all that music. And that's like insane music. It's like, Tears for Fears, Echo and the Bunnymen and stuff. On Reaper, we have two songs, and they were so expensive that we could not possibly do more. Like like Pat Benatar wasn't bad, but the Blue Oyster Cult, the Don't Feel the Reaper, that was so expensive. Like,
Oh,
no
I can only
one
imagine.
thought we could do it. Yeah, we had to get extra money from Shudder to cover it because I was like, it needs to be there. Just like freaking out.
It's in the name. Come on.
Yeah, it's in the name, exactly. So it was, yeah, it's, anyways, other favorite scores. I'm a huge Social Network. That score is incredible. Trent Reznor, I think it may have been his first, but just amazing.
Yeah,
I
that
like when I
score's
write, I
fantastic.
listen to that a lot too. Yeah, and Hans Zimmer, I mean, anything he does is just next level.
Yeah. Did you hear the Neutron Ares one that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross just put out?
No, I didn't. I gotta check that. I've been so busy with just like the release stuff that, yeah, I'm kind of super behind. But that's awesome because didn't Daft Punk did the last one, right?
Daft Punk did Tron Legacy, and that is one of my favorite soundtracks out
Yeah, it's a
there.
good one
And
too.
so I was wondering, like, well, are they gonna rejoin just for this movie?
Hmm.
I don't think so. And then when they announced that it's under the Nine Inch Nails banner, so
Oh, cool.
it reminds me a lot of their like 2000 stuff. But it's
Sweet.
got a really unique vibe to it, and I really like it. So definitely check that out if you like
Yeah,
Trent
yeah.
Reznor and
Is
Atticus
it on
Ross.
Spotify now?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll
just
definitely check
released
it
this
after
week.
this.
I've listened to it like 4 times this week while I was working.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they did one for Mank, the Fincher movie,
Yeah.
and it's like very old school and like there's like typewriters in the score and stuff. It's very interesting, but I like writing to that one as well because it has this like old Hollywood vibe, and it's kind of like big band adjacent, and
Yeah.
it's super cool. Those guys are ridiculously talented. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. So you've mentioned Shudder a couple times here. So Shudder is for anybody that's listening. They're really one of the go-to destinations for streaming horror. They have a slew of originals, exclusives, as well as you can find creators like curated lists on there. They have genres and subgenres, and it gets really in depth as to how it really is curated for like
Hmm.
the horror lover, and I absolutely adore that about it. And I'm always telling everybody like hey, if you can afford to just go with the regular Shutter and not like the Prime add-on or the
Hmm.
AMC Plus add-on, you're getting so much more out of it, especially like the
Totally.
streaming aspect of it where they have like movies playing 24/7 on their
Yeah.
channel. So I wanted to ask you sort of like what was it like to work with them specifically? What are the people behind it like? What is it like to work with a studio that's so like horror
Hmm.
oriented?
I've kind of been around them since almost since they started because my first movie, Stillborn, it had its festival debut in early 2017, and they made an offer to buy it, and so did this other company, Vertical, and we ultimately went with Vertical because they had like a limited theatrical window, and I thought that was super important. But then Shudder ended up buying the streaming rights anyways to it, so they got it too, and it was cool because they put it out on Mother's Day, which was a no brainer because it's a mom horror movie, but it just like they just understand it. They get the genre. They understand how to tie things in and make things cool and fun. They do like the halfway to Halloween. They do like September starts and it's like their season of horror and everything.
Yep.
But back then it was a little different. It was much smaller and it was just like a little bit more niche. But they've got so many members now, and it's in the UK, it's in Australia, it's in Canada, it's in all these different places. When I did my second movie, Z, they acquired it shortly after we filmed it because Stillborn performed fairly well for them. And so they made an offer. They took it for it. And then when I did Superhost, it was again just like an email. I just wrote them like, hey, I've got this thing I'm working on, and they're interested. And so yeah, they've just sort of been like the first call every time I do a project because they just sort of get me, and it's just it's a very collaborative relationship. When I did The Puppet Man, that was the first time they ever actually financed a movie. and so they were, they were more involved in the production, or not so much the production, but just like they were just more involved in general. Like that when I was editing it, that they give notes and stuff like that. But even then, they're very collaborative and they understand the director's vision and stuff like that. And it is all very independent. Like this isn't huge budget stuff, so it's not like they're asserting themselves in any crazy way. Like they understand what we're going for and they kind of lean into it. But no, they've been great. I mean, I've got, Reaper coming out or is out now, and then I've got another one coming out early next year with them as well. And it's just, that'll make 6 films with them, which I think makes me the most Shudder directed films ever, which is an interesting distinction. But, yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
that's
just been a
awesome.
great relationship. Yeah, it's just been almost like a decade straight of just working with Shudder. So, no, it's cool. I'm super super fortunate to be in this position.
Are there any other? So I'm just thinking about the fact that, like, you've mentioned a couple sort of genres and subgenres now. I always think to the fact that like Shudder is so curated that I can just be like, you know what, I'm in the mood for a folk horror right now,
Mm-hmm.
and very few of the streamers like
Right.
just have that, right? So I can
Sure.
roll in there and find like their 10 movies or whatever that they have that are categorized that way. Are there any like subgenres that you're interested in going into after this, like folk horror
Mm-hmm.
or creature feature or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've got my brother and I wrote a script. It's like I guess it's like a witch movie, but it is also like a creature feature because it turns into like a town versus this big witch thing, and it's like this big action, like Saving Private Ryan, holding fort in that last town thing. It's like that, but instead of a bunch of Germans, it's a giant witch. And we were dying to do it, but it's just a matter of finding the financing and everything like that. It's much bigger than the stuff I've done. It requires a ton of effects and stuff like that. So I'm not 100% sure. It's a great. I love the script, and it would be super fun to shoot. But that would be a good one. Found footage was something I always wanted to tackle, and I finally have done that, and that's coming out next year. The festivals are starting up this. I leave in less than a week to Boston to go to a festival there, and then I go to Colorado Springs from there, and just kind of touring a little bit with that next. But no, I mean, I think I'm always kind of looking for the next little subgenre that I can put my own spin on, and I've done like the Superhost was kind of my attempt to get away from the mom horror and go into like comedy horror. Puppet Man was like a possession thing. Reaper's like a slasher, and Bodycam, the one coming out next year, is my found footage. So yeah, I'm always just kind of like looking at what can I do that's new and interesting because it is so vast and varied. I don't know if every subgenre I'll hit, but it's fun to be able to kind of mix and match. Like I think Reaper is like it is a slasher, but it's also like a procedural, police procedural. That it has all these different things. It's not just one. It doesn't really like neatly fit into one box, especially when you
Yeah.
watch it. Like if you see the trailer or whatever, you think it's one thing, but it isn't really. And so I think that's it's kind of fun just to sort of dabble in the margins a little bit.
Yeah, and it definitely it has a really unique twist to it, which I won't spoil for anybody that's watching. But there's a certain point with it where it completely flips everything on its head, and I thought that was really cool because you're always watching these things with that in mind of like,
Hmm.
okay, what are they going to do different? And
Right.
you definitely nailed that different aspect of it.
Yeah, and it's been interesting too because you look at like reviews on IMDb, Letterboxd, and stuff like that, and most of the people are cool with just staying like keeping it spoiler free. They'll be like, "Oh, there's something I don't want to mention. I don't want to say what this is. I don't want to really saying more would spoil, all that stuff like that." Like they're being protective of it, which is cool because the narrative of a film can change really quickly if you know what it is. Like, say The Sixth Sense came up and it's like, oh, it's about this guy and he's a ghost and this little kid can see him and no one else can. Like, it changes the entire idea of what the film is. And so, with Reaper, it's like, can we maintain the sanctity of the twist? And so far, it's been a week now. It's weird. It's been a week now, and it's been good. Like everyone's been very nice and about it, and they're not like just blurting it out and just letting people experience it for themselves, which I appreciate.
Yeah. One thing that came to mind too is like I don't know if you watched Midnight Mass, but
Hmm.
Mike Flanagan's on Netflix there. That
Yeah,
one is one where I always encourage everybody, like, hey, if you like horror, you have to watch this, but don't look at anything
sure.
before you go in, because that was when he was doing like those yearly things for Netflix where it was like, okay,
Hmm.
it's October, we got Mike Flanagan's
Yeah.
new show hitting right now, and like me and a lot of other people went into that not knowing what it was about. You just knew it was horror, you knew it was an island with a town, and
Hmm.
there's religious imagery. That's all you know. And
Right.
I think it's not that far into it that you figure out what it's about, but it's such
Hmm.
a cool, those first few episodes where you don't know, or it's the mystery of it really is a part of the experience.
Yeah, I think that's to me, I think that's probably his best project because I mean that was one that he had worked on forever. Like you watch Hush, and the girl is reading or she's either writing something or she's reading something. And it says Midnight Mass. Like it was like his Mount Everest project that he was always trying to do, and then he finally got the opportunity and he totally nailed it. But
Yeah.
you can just sort of feel there was so much history and personal stuff in it that he put into it that it's hard to just fake. And so I think
Yeah.
that probably for him that's like his most important work. And yeah, it's unbelievable. It's so well done and constructed that there's a reason why he's a massive superstar director now, and it's that's a huge part of why it's just he's on another level.
Yeah. I actually just shot an episode last night with another podcast, Real podcast, and it was on the best horror directors working today, and Mike
Yeah,
Flanagan obviously came up. And
totally.
yeah, I'm so glad that everybody has just loved his work so much, and I'm really hoping that he gets to do the Dark Tower here.
I think they are. I think it's just a matter of there's so much back work to do before they even get to pre-production that has to be done. I think he's overseeing it, but I mean, yeah, he's got to be one of the hardest working filmmakers in the world because he writes, he directs, and he doesn't just direct one episode. He directs every episode. I mean, I guess then he'll do something like Midnight Mass where he hands it off. He'll do like one or two, or not Midnight Mass, sorry, the Midnight Club. And
Yeah.
Carrie, I think he directed the first and maybe the last one because Summer H. Howell from Reaper, she got cast in that after we shot. And so we keep in touch, and she sort of fills me in on where they are. But there is other directors working on that one. But yeah, I mean, like The Haunting of Hill House, he directed every episode. Midnight Mass, he directed every episode. The House of Usher directed every episode. I don't. It's crazy. That's so much work, and writes them too. Like it's nuts. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's wild. And he seems to be like the Stephen King whisperer here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like he's like the new Frank Darabont with that, which is cool because
Yeah.
Frank was the only one that could make a great Stephen King project, and now he did Gerald's Game, Flanagan, and it's amazing. And then he just did Life of Chuck. I haven't seen that yet. Have you?
I have. It's very good. You should absolutely
Yeah,
watch it.
and it's more like it's not it's more like happy Stephen King, more like what was that one with Jim Carrey that Frank Darabont did with the theater?
The
He did it after
Majestic.
the Green Mile, The Majestic. Yeah, it feels like it's more in that world. I don't think that
Yeah.
was Stephen King written, but it was Frank Darabont kind of doing something a little bit lighter than Shawshank and The Green Mile. So yeah, I definitely need to see The Life of Chuck.
Yeah, absolutely check that one out. It is very good. I was disappointed because I wanted so badly to see that at the theater, but it was like a limited release and I could not find it anywhere around me.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, it's a
But yeah,
bummer.
highly recommend that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Random question. If you could direct any Stephen King adaptation, what do you think that would be?
That's a good one. I mean, I've kind of gotten this question before, and I always default to it because I know it's been done and it's been done pretty good. Like the I what I missed about it because I have the book. Like I have, where is it? Let me just pull it out. It's my bragging book because it's like the original, the original release of it, and it's a little
Nice.
ripped because my dog messed it up. But it was just like when I was a kid, I saw it the miniseries, and it just like ruined my childhood until I was in junior high and I watched it again. And when I was a little bit older, I was able to see how cheesy it was, and I immediately was no longer scared of it. But my entire childhood was dominated by Tim Curry. It was just I was terrified of it. And so when, I don't know, however many years ago that was, when they redid it, I went to the opening night and I was legit scared. Like I was so scared of going to see this thing again because I was like, oh God, I don't want it to renew that feeling I had back when I was a kid. I was sitting there watching, and the opening is super scary. The stuff with Georgie, it's a little bit weird with some of the stuff, but great. And then the movie plays, and like the cast is great. Derry looks great. The Neibolt house looks great. All this stuff is great, but it just wasn't scary because I felt like Pennywise wasn't dangerous. Like he would always do like a fast run at the camera and it'd be like, "Woo," doing this stuff, and then the kid would get away, and it was just like, okay, at a certain point he has to kill somebody because it's just never happening. And like the only real victim on screen other than Georgie was, I think, Patrick, his name is. I can't remember his last name, but he's in the sewer and there's the red balloon and this little jump scare. But again, you don't see him get killed or anything, so it just felt like it was pulling all of its punches. And then the sequel came out, and the opening of it with like the gay bashing thing, it's great. It's horrifying, it's scary, it's dark. And then the rest of the movie happens, and it's all like, it felt more like a Goosebumps movie than a Stephen King It adaptation. And like, I didn't even mind what they did with like the ritual of Chud or Chud or whatever it is at the end, and like, bullying the Pennywise. Like, it's fine, it works. That ending in the book is impossible to do. But just every scene when it's like great tension, like Beverly sitting across from the old lady, and she like goes and strips her clothes and is like running around in the background, super tense and scary. And then all of a sudden she just like runs out, and she's this big spooky eye, big monster, and it's just like, it's not scary anymore. It feels like Goosebumps. So, if I could do one, it would be it, but I would really just go like that gay bashing scene at the beginning of it. That's the level of darkness that it should be in the entire movie. It should always just be mean and cruel, and the town is just victimized by this thing. And that was kind of the bummer, because the cast is great, the direction is great, everything's great. It just wasn't scary, and that was the bummer for me.
Well, and that is the thing with the sequel too. Is like I was going to say as you were talking about it, I was like, oh, if you didn't like that with the first one, the second one is like, in
Yeah,
my feelings, like notoriously not as scary as the
totally.
first one.
Yeah.
Like it leans into humor more,
Hmm.
and I think that it kind of deflates a lot of the scares there for it.
Yeah, and again, like where is it? When they all have that Chinese food dinner, and they did it in the miniseries as well when they all come back to Derry for the first time. But it's like, it's really well done, and the characters are great. Like the actors are so good. The casting is pitch perfect for the the adult versions. It's just, yeah, it's just not scary, and that's like such a bummer because people love it. It's good. It did so well. And Welcome to Derry, I think, looks great, and I hope that it's awesome because I love I just love everything about Derry and the town, and like Pennywise the monster and how he came up, like the history of it, which I think the show is going to explore more. And it's cool that it's the same director because I think he's super talented, and so I just wish I felt as an adult how I felt as a kid watching the miniseries, where it was just haunting, and the movies weren't like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, chasing the dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so your movie contained one of the best jump scares for me in recent memory, and so I kind of had a question about like what's the creative process of trying to decide how to use those different horror techniques at your disposal to create tension, to create shock, to create jump scares? The tools that you have there. Sort of, what's your process there of deciding what to use, how to use it, and where to use it?
Um, it's kind of project dependent. Can I ask which one it is? You can just give like, is it walkie-talkie? Is that what? Which one are you talking about when you're
I think
referencing
there
this?
was like a lightning strike or something.
Oh, at the beginning. That's interesting because that's actually, so I've like read reviews and stuff. I've seen some YouTube reviews and stuff like that, and they've actually cited that as being like kind of cheating, and it's bullshit because it's setting up the fact that it's supernatural and it's not. But to me, because there's a couple times in the cold open where that kind of happens. The lightning strike is the second one, and the first one is when the clothes move in the closet. And then when she looks, there's nothing there, and it's nothing's moving. And the idea is these things aren't actually happening, but she's scared they are. So like she's reaching for the teddy bear and then she feels something moving. She looks, it's not. It's repeated with the lightning strike. Like she's walking and she feels her reflection, even though it's not actually staring at her when she looks. For that one moment, we're just sort of like in her head there. And then at the end of the movie, when the killer is talking, they basically say like that feeling that you're being watched and all that stuff. Like they're explaining what you were seeing at the beginning, and if you tie that together, great. If some people didn't, and that's fine too. But that one was interesting because there's no music to it. You know, it's just the sound design which carries it and the visual, obviously. But you know, there's different ways to do jump scares. You can do things that are just like mean and unfair jump scares, which I feel like I think it's episode 5 of The Haunting of Hill House when the two sisters are driving. You know, I'm sure you know the one. And then the face, like spooky demon face, boom, out of nowhere. They scream.
I just watched that 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, is it hold up the second time, or if you've seen it before?
I mean, you're anticipating it the entire time, so it didn't make me jump.
Okay, but the first time, it's total. There's no setup for it. It's just total bullshit. It's just like I'm driving, all of a sudden scream, loud music, and you're just like, okay, that like you got me, but you got me because it was startling. Like it's not, and it was loud. Whereas with something like the Reaper Closet or like the kid in Z with the stairs, I don't know if you saw that movie, but a kid falls down some stairs and it's like a big jump scare there.
See that one.
Okay, well disregard that. But either way, you're like me anyways. I want to build it up and I want it to feel like a natural occurrence in the scene. So from the very beginning, the very first frame of the movie after the title is like you see lightning and it's setting up the fact like there's lightning and the thunder is always really far away. Like it's like lightning, a few seconds pass, thunder. But as you get closer to that scene, the thunder and the lightning are getting closer and closer. So it's all subconscious for you. You're just watching it and you're just, you know, I don't know how they do it in the States, but when you hear lightning and then you count 1, 2, 3, like that's how many kilometers or miles or whatever away it is.
Yeah.
It kind of serves as like a subconscious countdown to getting closer and closer, so that when that happens, you've been tying it closer and closer, so that when that one happens, it's just like immediate loud and flash and loud. But yeah, it's just a matter of for me, anyways, just trying to milk the tension as far as possible because you can do the Mike Flanagan thing and just sort of jump spooky face, but I feel like it's more effective if you can set it up and then distract the audience for a sec. Like it's like, okay, this thing's going to happen, but for the next little bit, I'm going to tell you something else is happening so that when that comes back, you've forgotten about it. And like going back to the one in Z, it's like that. Like it's basically these two moms talking and you know that there's a danger, but you forget about it because you're lured away from it. So it's like, if I could set it up and then distract you for a bit, when I come back and bring it to you again, it's going to be really effective because you're like, shit, I totally forgot about that. And so that's kind of what I try to do. But, ultimately it's just like trying to time the visual to the sound because the sound is such a big component of it. And if it's like a frame off, it doesn't hit quite as well. So I think that's a good one because it's pretty loud. But that's cool that it got you. That's great.
It definitely got me. My wife witnessed it getting me.
Nice.
Another one that was like recent in my memory too was, have you seen Oddity?
No.
Oh, you got to check out Oddity. It's on Shudder.
Okay.
It has, I swear, like probably the best jump scare of the last like 5-10 years.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
And it's also just like a really, really good movie. It's quality. It wasn't straight to Shudder. It did like a limited release, but yeah, definitely check that one out. Oddity.
Cool. Okay.
What do you think was like the most challenging aspect of creating this movie?
Probably just making the 80s work because like we just, the budget for the production design team was very small. They just didn't have the resources that you would. And so I mean, if you watch the movie, it's very vaguely 1980s. Like there is no set year. There's references to certain things, like there's a license plate in it, and it has a number on it, but it doesn't mean it takes place in that year. That's just my birth year, so I just put it there. But we just couldn't nail down an exact year because then you run into anachronisms, and it's like, oh wait, that song isn't out yet, and you kind of have that where it's like we are just taking what we can get. Because like the Pat Benatar thing, it was just like on a list of music that we could afford. and it's such a great song. It was just like, great, let's do it. But if I was trying to set it in a year before that, say, and like the Chainsaw MTV logo, I believe that's from 1985 as well. But then there's like a poster of RoboCop later, and that came out the home release, and that was like '89 or something. So I don't know if you're familiar with the show The Goldbergs, but every episode is like
I'm familiar
sometime
with
in
it.
the
I haven't seen it
'80s.
though.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's like to avoid being wrong about what year things happened, it just is like sometime in the '80s, and it can just sort of hand wave it all away. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what we're doing here. It's just like we're just going to do 1980s because if we have cars in the background that are like '89 and it takes place in '88, like I don't want some person to be like, oh, that's the, just which happens, and you're just like, I know, but we don't have money. This isn't a Hollywood movie. So we had to just sort of like find houses that were period accurate. We had to find locations that weren't totally like renovated to be, new big houses and stuff like that. Like that cul-de-sac that I guess you wouldn't know it's a cul-de-sac, but the house that opens the film, that whole cul-de-sac is where Dean is walking. Like we just went from house to house down the cul-de-sac because it just kind of went in a big circle, and just looks like she's walking through suburbia. But it was just this like one area of that community that hadn't had a bunch of like modern giant square houses built everywhere. So we were able to just kind of go in this linear path and create this sort of time and place. But like even just like every location, you have to pull out everything new. You have to put in new, like, old stuff, and that was just a huge challenge because like I said earlier, a lot of indie stuff they don't get it fully right. I feel like it feels cheap and it's missing a lot of the texture, and I'm big on texture, so just like loading every scene with texture and just making it feel real was a big thing. Like that, the very opening bedroom, it didn't have wallpaper, and I was just like, we need wallpaper. They're like, it's gonna cost us like $3,000. I'm like, I don't care, just do it. I'll pay for it personally if I have to. Take it out of my salary. I just need wallpaper. Like I can be very insane about this stuff, but I'm doing it for the movie. Like it makes the movie better. If that was white walls in that room, it'd look terrible. But because it's wallpaper, it just looks right. And so making it feel right was the hardest challenge for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think It Follows. You had mentioned that earlier. They take an interesting approach to that one
Yeah,
too, where it's like they just include technology from every era, and you just have no idea.
totally. It's genius. It's like I'm very curious what happens with the sequel, but yeah, they have like that clamshell phone
Yeah,
e-book reader thing, like
yeah,
super weird, and it's really smart because the cars they just sort of change, generations and stuff. Yeah, you can't pinpoint it, which makes it timeless, which is really cool because you could watch that and be like, oh, this is an '80s movie. Oh wait, but that's weird. Oh well. Anyways, it never focuses on anything. It's just textural, but it creates this weird like anachronistic mismatch where you just forget about it at a certain point. You just accept it as this like weird multiverse time and place for us, and it's fantastic. It's such a great movie.
yeah. I might watch that tonight.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I've got this cool release. It's like I don't even know where it's from, but I don't know if you can see it, but it's this
Oh
like
yeah,
big
yeah.
box
I've
set.
seen that. That's I think that's from. Oh, I don't know. It's from. It's not in. It's not from the U.S. I think that's from the
No.
UK somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
like
don't know if
Umbrella
it's
or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's super cool. And yeah, just I got it last year, and any I like that stuff because it's like they're never gonna make a release better than that one. So I'm just like, okay, I got this. I don't need to buy it again ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, final question. If we're doing an October Halloween themed double feature and your movie is one of the movies, what are you going to choose to be the second movie?
Oh, that's tough because like there's movies that are similar, and tonally. Like When a Stranger Calls, you watch, if you watch that and then you watch Reaper, you'll see the influence. If you do that with House of the Devil, you're gonna feel the influence. Scream, you're gonna feel the influence. Um, I think that because it's an '80s movie and it feels like Halloween or like House of the Devil or something like that, it might make more sense to pair it with something a little newer. So like maybe Scream, just because they both share the cold open thing, but then they both have interesting takes on the slasher genre. Like
Yeah.
Scream is very meta and it kind of changes the rules while adhering to them. in a way that is was incredible at the time. Like it holds up so well now. It was back then it was so insane, but Reaper, I feel like it's not it's definitely not Scream level, but it's trying something new with something familiar, which Scream does as well. So I think that it makes a cool pairing just because it's two wildly different swings at a very similar genre, and they both, like Scream is paying attention to the classics, like they're watching. I think it's Halloween when they're at the party,
Yeah.
right? And Jamie Kennedy or Matthew Lillard's like, "I'll be right back," and he goes to get beer. It's kind of like poking fun in a way at the genre while paying respect to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Reaper's not poking fun of, but it's paying respect to it before it kind of transitions into its own thing. So I think that'd be a cool pairing just because it's the slasher genre, even though it's just one part of the horror community, it has so many different you look at like In a Violent Nature or something like that, very familiar, but it does it in a new perspective, which creates this new idea. Now it's getting a sequel because it's just like, oh yeah, people get it. They like having things that they're familiar with done in a new way. And I think that Reaper kind of does that, and it's kind of the I think when Bodycam comes out, you'll see it there too, where it's familiar because it's found footage, but the gimmick is really strong because everybody knows body cam footage. You see it on YouTube all the time. If you have a good gimmick like that and you can stick to it, it's cool what happens from it. So, I'm really excited for you to see that, just to sort of see a new way to do found footage.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I love found footage.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah. What's interesting about the comparison to Scream 2 is they both have that whodunit feel to it as well.
Right. And honestly, it's kind of a bummer because Reaper's cast is so small and like the scope of the film is so limited. It's like two cops doing that and then Deena doing that. Whereas the town in Scream is so big, like it's affecting everybody in the town, and they had the budget to expand the scope, and you see, there's so many characters, so the whodunit part of it becomes a bigger deal. Whereas with Reaper, and I've said this since when we wrote it, is like the whodunit of it is a red herring to keep your eyes off of what's actually happening, and so it's kind of some people that don't like the film, they don't like it because the whodunit reveal is kind of underwhelming. But to me, the whodunit reveal is not really the point of the movie at all. It's just sort of like something that's happening to keep your eye off the ball. And so if you can appreciate that, which some do and some don't, I think you can get something pretty cool out of the film because it is doing something different. It just depends. Whatever you think about that last act, it either works for you or it doesn't because it's not what you were expecting. But it's been interesting to see sort of the feedback from it because, even the people that don't like it and they say whatever it is, totally justified. But I disagree on a personal level just because it didn't hit them the way I was hoping it did. And that's a bummer. But I don't think I did it wrong. It's just not what they were expecting.
Well, and I think things like that tend to age very well.
Sure.
Because on rewatch, you know exactly what you're getting into, and it becomes like a puzzle that you're like, okay, so why is this happening? How
Right.
does this factor in? And you get to play around with a lot of those things. And I mean, expectations are such a huge part of every experience. So I think, over time, people probably just come to terms with a few of those things that don't like it. But honestly, I loved it. So, I think there's a ton to love in the movie. And, all those aspects of it, I think are going to be highly rewatchable, especially, like you said, all the effort that was put into the vibe of the whole movie.
Yeah, and it's I think it's interesting too because this was my fifth movie release of my own, and I've never had as many people being like, I've already watched it twice, and like picking up on the things that are there because if you watch it again, a lot of the dialogue in the first 20 minutes are totally different on rewatch because like certain characters say certain things and you took it on its face value the first time, but if you hear it again, you'll be like, oh, that's what they're talking about. But they're just like, they know more than we do, the audience. But when the audience catches up and they watch it again, they're in on it too, and they're seeing it differently. And so like you can never expect anybody to watch your movie, period, but you can never expect them to watch it twice. So if you do get lucky enough to have people, rewatch it, I'm hopeful that they appreciate the details because there is a lot there. Like almost every scene has something that has foreshadowing for later if you know it. Like when I went to the world premiere of the movie, it was the first time I ever saw it with an audience or anything because it's an indie. We don't do test screenings or anything. You just hope to God. Like I make the movie in this room and I'm just like working on it by myself and very few people see it. So I'm sitting there and like my wife's beside me and I'm just like crouched down and I'm just like, oh my God, it's too obvious. Everybody's onto it. Everybody, and then I asked afterward, I was like, did anybody know? And no one put their hand up. So when it's hard, it changes everything. You're just like, oh my God, it's so obvious. Like that's what the movie is. But when you don't know, it doesn't at all. So I mean, it's been great to see people already say like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it or I'm gonna rewatch it again this October because of the vibes. I've never had that before, and so I think that's really cool. And like you said, it's possible it can come back later and can kind of have a shelf life because every October people do these lists like 31 movies I'm going to watch one every day in October leading up to Halloween. And I've always wanted to have a movie that is like a recurring on those lists, and I feel like for the first time this might, can't promise, but I think it'll age well, and like people will discover it, and they'll be like, "Oh, cool! This could be something I put into my yearly." And so, yeah, we'll see. You never know. It's a crapshoot every time, but so far it's been really cool to see.
Yeah. Well, nice job on it. I mean, it's it definitely captures all those things that you say. So, I'm sure it will, and I'm already planning on watching it a second time. So here we go.
Cool, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate it. So what else do you have going on? Where can people find you?
I'm just starting up the festival bit. We're playing a number of festivals with the new movie Bodycam. And so that's going to be coming out early next year. And then you can just find me on my I use Instagram the most. I'm the Brandon Christensen, same spelling. And that's kind of where I keep most of my stuff up. But I'm in an interesting place right now because when I shot The Puppet Man back in 2022, I was in post on that for about a year and a few months. And while I was in post on that, I shot Bodycam. And while I was in post on Bodycam, I shot Reaper. And so I've kind of been leapfrogging projects. And for the first time, I have no movies ahead of me. Like I'm just done, which is crazy. And like for 3 years, I wasn't. So yeah, it's interesting. So I'm doing a lot of writing right now and just sort of trying to figure out what's next. But finding money is always tough. So it's going to be a matter of what's going to pop next. And I have no idea. So hopefully next year I can shoot something.
Well, I love the idea of that witch story you were talking about, especially.
Yeah.
It sounds like that was like a period piece.
It's not. It sounds like it, but it's almost like, it's like a little bit of a culture divide between people living in a place under old rules because of this entity that they're kind of like they're like the last bastion of defense against the whole world against this thing. It's like this ongoing tucked in. It's like a little town of Salem, not Salem, but similar. And it's just they're kind of like this line of defense for the world, and yeah, things go very wrong. But it's a great script. I'm just hopeful someone throws some money at it because it'd be a lot of fun.
Get on it, Shudder.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
We'll see.
So everybody, please check out Night of the Reaper. It is streaming on Shudder right now, and keep an eye out for Bodycam because that sounds really cool as well. Thank you, Brandon. Really appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you everybody that's joining us to listen. So if you're not subscribed yet, you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Thread, Spotify, all the places. It's at Bark Night Podcast. And on the web, my website is barknightmedia.com. So thank you.